Cunningham. Good afternoon. Welcome to rokrbox TV. I'm Josh Cunningham, the founder and CEO of rokrbox. I'm joined with our VP of Sales and Head Coach, Sam Monreal, as always. How's it going, Sam?
Hey guys, living the dream. How about y'all?
And today we've got a very special guest on our show, Spring Bengtzen from Ogden, Utah. How's it going, Spring?
I'm great. How are you, Josh?
I am fantastic. Thanks so much for joining us, Spring. And the reason why we brought Spring onto our show today is because this summer she actually jumped back into production and was working a majority of the leads through her BoomTown and rokrbox platform and actually generated 49 closed deals in only 90 days. And we just thought that was an absolutely incredible experience that we wanted to share with the rest of our audience. And so Spring was kind enough to take some time out of her day to share this message with us. So Spring, why don't you kind of start us off here by giving us a little background information about you? How long have you been in the business? How big is your team? How many transactions will you do this year?
So I've been in the business approximately about 12 years. My team right now consists of 2 admin, and then there's 5 agents. I just hired 2 brand new buyers agents in the last 30 days. And we're on track to close 150 homes this year.
Wow. And how long have you been on BoomTown?
I think since 2013.
Okay. And then you were actually the very first client to ever start on rokrbox, which was about 2.5 years ago, right?
Yep.
Great. So, Sam, why don't you kind of take it away with some of the questions that we've kind of gathered in hearing Spring's amazing success that she had this summer, and kind of what was some of the first things that popped into our mind as far as what we wanted her to share.
Well, so, Spring, one of the things that I think is really interesting about your market is, and especially because you've been on rokrbox for a little while, so talk a little bit about Ogden. You have folks that are regular home buyers, and you also have second home buyers, vacation home buyers in your market?
Yeah, so I started my career in a resort second home market. It's about 20 miles out of Ogden. And so I have that as my hub, as how I started my career. And then when the market shifted, I needed to make a change into somewhere that was more transactional. And so that is when I got a BoomTown platform and moved into what I would call the metro market. So we still do a good amount of business in both markets, and they're completely different buyers, as you know.
Yeah, and so you've obviously been on the platform with BoomTown for quite a while, and been with rokrbox as well. So what was kind of the thought process around initially deciding to go with rokrbox, taking a chance on a plucky young guy like Josh without a big, huge track record of success?
Hope we didn't lose Spring there. You still there, Spring?
I'm here now, yeah.
Okay.
I didn't hear a word he said other than I've been with BoomTown and rokrbox for a while.
Yeah, and so I was just basically asking what was the original thought process that got you started with rokrbox?
So I originally purchased BoomTown because I wanted to grow a team and I needed an additional lead source. And so I started seeing all these leads come in, and I was giving them to my buyer's agents, but I was seeing a lack of follow-up and a lack of accountability coming into play. And I was watching the amount of money that was going out, but yet I couldn't track anything. I couldn't expect a certain follow-up, and so that's where Josh came into play. He and I were personal friends for a long time, and we would talk about this. He was like, you need an ISA, you need an ISA, you need an ISA. So I'm like, Josh, why don't you do it for me? And that's kind of how it started. But it has been such a blessing to my business in every aspect, because I just holding them accountable to actually follow up more, even with somebody they don't even know is a qualified buyer, is really difficult. Where you guys take all of that out of it for me.
Well, we're happy to do so. So let's kind of fast forward a little bit to what happened this summer. Now, I understand you had a bit of a shakeup with your team, or kind of what was the chain of events that led to you actually being the one that was working the leads?
Yeah, so I had 2 buyer's agents that ended up quitting at the beginning of summer. And then I only had one buyer's agent on my team, and he had a trip to Greece planned that was
Lucky
3 weeks
guy.
long. Yeah. And so I'm just sitting here in my mindset being like, oh shit, what am I going to do? Like, I'm paying BoomTown, I'm paying Google, I'm paying rokrbox, like, what in the world, you know? And so I literally was like, okay, I can do this. I'll just get back into production until we figure it out. And so I started taking the buyer leads, which is probably one of the best things I possibly could have done because I hadn't taken the leads from BoomTown previously. So now it put me back into seeing what my agents were going through and to understand the process a little bit more and also understand the conversion and how to make that happen.
So Spring, you were enrolled in this 90-day boot camp and set out on a quest to just conquer the world. And so kind of explain a little bit of the mindset that you had to adopt in order to go out there and generate as many transactions as possible this summer.
So yeah, so when the team shifted and everything, I kind of got in a funky mindset of like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? And I happened to enroll in a 90-day mastery boot camp called GSD, Get Shit Done. And Josh Smith is who teaches it. He's crazy intense. I just loved his energy. And he teaches a lot on mindset. And so I literally just got in the mindset of like, I have 90 days. I'm going to set this crazy goal. I want to make some money. I don't want to pay for all this stuff and for no reason, you know. And so I just set a 90-day goal and I tracked it every week. And that's kind of where it was at. And I was just, it was pretty much all I thought about. I was pretty obsessed with it. So
I think a lot of times, you know, people get into a little bit of a slump because maybe they get one lead that doesn't wind up being, you know, as awesome as promised. And I know that you'd kind of told me a story previously about, you know, some of the leads that were coming across on your plate that maybe in the past you might have ignored or not as urgently followed up with. But kind of take me through that story about the lead that seemed like it wasn't worth anything that wound up turning into a double-sided deal.
Right. So, I mean, one of the things that Josh had said 90 Day was the whole point of a lead is to get an appointment. There's no appointment that you wasted. So I got a lead that was transferred from you that came from Zillow, and it was for a $150,000 short sell 30 minutes away. And I'm thinking, oh heavens, that's not a very high price point in my market. And but I was like, there's got to be a transaction here, and who knows what it is. So I made the appointment that day. I mean, my mindset was to get in front of them because I knew if I could get in front of them that they would hire me. And so I met them at the property and then solidified a little bit of like, hey, I do know what I'm doing. I am a real agent. And found a reason to create some more value. I offered to run some numbers on their current home. Turned out that their current home was a $500,000 home that they were hoping to downsize, and because their kids had moved out. Ultimately ended up listing that home and then selling them an additional home on a lead that generally I'm pretty sure that even my mindset was like, oh, I don't want to deal with this, that my agents would have felt the same way, that you just really genuinely never know what's going to come to fruition with one of those inquiries. You need to treat every single one of them as that it's a transaction instead of blowing them off.
You know, and I think that's one of the things that's really key that I really like about this story, Spring, is at rokrbox, you know, our whole goal, as much as we'd love to put them in our car and show them around and take them to see homes, we can't do that. And so for us, the whole idea is creating opportunities on behalf of our agents. And I think, you know, I love that about your story because, you know, you're the one paying for AdWords, you're the one paying for BoomTown, you're the one paying for rokrbox. You've got these opportunities that are being identified in your system, and you were like, you know, a pit bull on a pant leg when it came to really following up with these leads, really getting in touch with them, really, you know, working them as hard as you can. And I mean, for instance, Spring, how many new leads are you generating within your platform on any given month, on average?
On average, with everything, we're probably about 350 to 400 just from internet-based.
Yeah, and so,
And I'm seeing right now from you guys that I'm getting, sorry, it's cutting out. I'm seeing that I'm getting about 10% of them transferred back that are qualified leads.
And so, you can see that, kind of bear fruit in the numbers that you're expressing over what happened in the spring, or I'm sorry, in the summer, by being able to get, those, 49 deals across the finish line. Obviously, the summer is a very active buying time of the year, but it says a lot more about how you were following up with those opportunities, because you knew personally the importance of really working those leads and being that primary point of contact and spending the time to show them that you are an expert in your market and that you have all this experience and that you have all this value you can bring to their real estate home shopping process.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I genuinely, like I said, I felt like if I could get in front of them, that they would hire me. So it was my goal to get in front of them. So you might have transferred a lead that didn't respond to me. So I would make sure that I called them, I text them, I emailed them. If I didn't get it, that was the first day. If I didn't get a hold of them, I would shoot them a text the next day. Didn't reply, I would call them. I mean, I had a lot of people that actually said, you know what, they would actually call me back and say, you left me a voicemail, sorry, I've just been busy. And I think a lot of times we take it as rejection or they're not a valid lead because they're not replying, where reality is people have lives. I mean, they ultimately, is when they're ready. So just following up was key for me.
Yeah, and I was going to say, Josh, I saw you pulling up something on our screen right there, and that's actually, there's a method to all of this, guys. This is actually where we came up with the set of agent expectations that we share with all of our clients about the best practices that an agent should be doing when we transfer a lead to them. It kind of came out of this experience of looking at Spring and other successful accounts that we were working with through the combination of BoomTown and rokrbox. But then the final piece of the equation is what the agent is doing. So if we make the assumption BoomTown does its job and rokrbox does its job, what are the set of steps that the agent needs to do in order to have these really amazing results that someone like Spring has had? And so, Josh, if you'll pull that back up, that's really where the set of expectations came from.
Can you see it now?
Yes, sure.
Great. Yeah, so just like Sam was saying, this summer in all of our execution of our core strategies, we reached out to a lot of our very successful accounts like Spring and just did a deeper dive into what they were doing to actually get these leads to the finish line. And so these are the rokrbox agent best practices. I'm sure a lot of you have seen us share them with you, but just so you kind of know exactly where they came from, is a lot of it comes from the super productive summer that Spring had.
Yeah, and so we've talked about these a couple of different times, but really it is staying in front of those leads, making multiple attempts to reach out to them, whether it's voicemails, emails, texts, phone calls, making sure that you do, and making sure that there are multiple of those at different times a day. Because remember, this is an opportunity we've already identified. This is somebody that has said to us, one of our callers in our call center here, I want to buy a home. I want to speak to an agent about buying a home. So it's really where that high level of contact is really crucial. And then, if you look at, kind of 4 through 7 here, that is about, what is good pipeline management processes, like having 100% of your leads with scheduled to-dos, following up with your hot leads once a week, following up with your nurture leads every other week, and then, of course, really trying to work those leads on the agent side of the house that are within that 90-day window. So anyway, just wanted to kind of give you guys some insight into, we actually looked at clients that were being successful with a combination of BoomTown and rokrbox, identified what they were doing, and that's where those agent best practices came from. So again, back to Spring a little bit about your story here. Spring, it sounds like you were, 5, sometimes 6, 7, 8 attempts to reach these people, and oftentimes it was not that they were ignoring you, it was just that they were, they were human.
Yeah, exactly. And I just didn't take anything personal. It just doesn't bother me. So I would go in and create the to-dos right after I didn't get a hold of them, or I did get a hold of them, and I just made sure every morning I was going through who I needed to follow up with. And it got a little crazy. I mean, there were a couple days I had to call my assistant who really isn't in production. He does my paperwork. Like, I need to be at this client right now because I knew that we needed to be the first person to get in front of them. You know, that they weren't going to be ours. Like they said, we're going to go to this open house today, or we're going to go do this, let's connect on Saturday. And I would just ask her, like, hey, can you go meet with them so we're their first point of contact? So I think it's really just making sure that you're following up and make every effort to schedule that appointment and let them see the value.
And so now that now that we're kind of through the summer months, I know that you've started to build your team back up, and you found some good agents that you're going to be working with.
Right.
So how has your experience over the summer shaped and kind of altered maybe the expectations that you'll have for the agents on your team in order, what you're going to be holding them accountable to, what kind of activities you're looking for? Basically, how has this shaped your new approach to the team that you're continuing to grow?
Well, I think I honestly have higher standards, only because I've seen and been in their firsthand that I know that there are deals there. I mean, I think it's oftentimes you hear agents be like, oh, the leads are crappy. Leads aren't crappy. It's not something, rokrbox isn't transferring crappy leads. I've heard it before or whatever, from other agents, is that they genuinely need to get to work and they need to follow some systems and the things we put in place. So we've done a 90-day training that we have them going through tons of different types of trainings on skill sets and scripting and everything. And then on the accountability piece, we run a pipeline report to see where everybody has past to-dos, how many leads they have under their name, how many they have in nurture, when everything is scheduled. I mean, we really are watching it. And I think, to be quite frankly with you right now, their conversion ratios are not as good as mine. And I don't necessarily expect them to be like they're brand new, but I also know that it's not a problem with the lead, it's a problem with their skill set. And so that's coming back on me on that.
That's a great point, Spring. So what you're saying is obviously you can map out, left turn, right turn, each step-by-step direction of exactly what to do, but some of it does boil down to the actual quality of the work. So what are some things that you're going to be engaged in to try to get these new agents up to the level of conversion that you were used to with your experience, with your level of expertise?
So we do from 9 to 9, they're in the office prospecting, and every morning we do a morning huddle and we go over what previous day objections they've had, or if they met with clients or whatnot. We make them sit through a certain amount of buyer consults before they can do their own. We make them shadow, give them the opportunity to go out with other agents or have them bring in. So we're really working on getting their skill set and their scripts and dialogues. I also have them in coaching. Right now they're in bold, and then I'll put them in some additional coaching when that's over for the buyer's agent.
And that's one of the things that I know Josh and I have been looking to roll out to our clients in a bigger way is, offering a more agent direct approach from rokrbox, where we're providing agents directly some resources. And we'll be rolling out more information about that here in the next couple of weeks about how we can be working with your agents directly around the types of things and best practices and scripts and dialogues that we know actually help convert leads from the internet and ultimately sell homes. We know most agents work entirely on commission, so we want them to be extremely successful. Their success is a big part of our success.
Right. Honestly, if we're not converting the leads, then we know that we have to pay for everything, right? We have to pay for rokrbox and everything. So ultimately, we know that BoomTown works, we know that rokrbox works, but now it's on me to make sure my agent's conversion ratios are there, and hiring the right people.
So, Spring, is there anything additional that you wanted to share with us about kind of what you learned over the past couple of months, or anything kind of new that you're going to be implementing into the next year?
Oh man, my whole business is changing going into the next year. I'm personally just in growth mode. I feel like we've kind of plateaued the last few years, and so it's time to go to that next step, So we're in the process of doing the outside sales agent model and hiring more showing assistants. I think we'll go in that direction of having some buyer specialists and then having a showing assistant.
You know, I think that's really interesting. I want to go back to that for just a second because a lot of people ask me, you know, well, does it make sense to have an OSA, which is an outbound inside salesperson, in addition to rokrbox? And I think this is a really good point that you bring up, that, you know, rokrbox is actually a really great addition to an outbound internal sales organization, because they really are two separate sides of the business. You know, we know that most leads that are coming from the internet are people that are engaged in a buying transaction. So that OSA role within your team can still be focused on that lead generation around listings. So, you know, you're looking to actually build that OSA department internally while simultaneously having rokrbox still walk and tackle on the new leads that come into the system. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yeah, they're two completely different parts. I mean, the OSA to me is more of the listing side, and rokrbox is my buyer side. So to me, they're completely different people and completely different departments within the team.
Awesome.
So one last thing I'd like to go back to again, just elaborating a little bit more on this 49 deals in 90 days. I know we talked a little bit about the mindset, you know, that you had to find a way to create an appointment out of every lead, and to understand that, you know, not to take a lead at surface value. You also mentioned, you know, basically you need to get in front of the lead as soon as possible to demonstrate some expertise and start building some rapport and get them to realize that you are a legitimate person that can actually help them through one of the biggest financial transactions in their life. And then number three, again, I think that you've used what you've learned, having actually jumped back into production, having actually worked BoomTown leads and rokrbox leads, to now help you in the future to start building the foundation to bring more agents on to follow that yellow brick road and to success. One of the last things I kind of want to recap on those, Spring, is kind of the numbers. I know that you pulled a few numbers for us about your production for this summer, but can you just kind of share with us some of the findings that you discovered in analyzing this really productive 90 days in your business?
Yeah, so I couldn't tell you how many leads that you guys transferred over. I didn't honestly look at that. But I could tell you that probably I got a hold of at least 90% of them, which to me was great, because I used to hear from other agents I can't get a hold of them, like they aren't calling me back or whatnot. So I spoke to at least 90% of them. And then frankly, not everybody was ready to buy. Like there were some that they started looking and they decided, hey, I need to save more money. This doesn't make financial sense. Or some that couldn't find the house that they wanted or whatnot. But I didn't take that as that it wasn't a viable lead. It just was the wrong time for them, you know. And so they're still in the system. They're still there. I'm still nurturing them. It had nothing to do with the systems and everything that dialed. It just wasn't the right time for the client, which I appreciate the experience, because now I can go back and I recognize that. Like, it's not always going to work out for everybody, but knowing that most of the time they're viable, good lead if you work it.
And I love this, Spring, because I'm a really big believer in the concept of inspecting what you expect. You know, we talk a lot about in the real estate industry having a clear set of expectations for your team, and then being able to thoroughly inspect those so you're holding your team accountable at a high level. Well, by getting back into production, you have a really clear idea of what to expect, and I really appreciate you sharing your success story with us. I think it's will be a big eye-opener for some other teams out there that, you know, being able to get a hold of 90% of the opportunities that we transfer over has a high level of indication that these opportunities that we're identifying on behalf of these teams all across the country and Canada really are real people. They're really engaged in a buying thought process, and they want the help of an agent. So I'm really grateful for your time today, and happy selling out there.
Thanks. You too.
Yeah, thanks again, Spring, obviously, for taking the time out of your day to share your message. I think it's very powerful, and I think it definitely helps a lot of people out there in the community. Thanks again. For all of our viewers, be sure to join us weekly Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. I understand it's Thursday today, but we will get back on our weekly Wednesday schedule. On rokrbox TV. In our upcoming episodes, we're going to have some more clients sharing their success stories. We're also going to have a little script and role play practice for some of the agents that are receiving the leads that we're transferring their way. And obviously, if you have any questions about what it is that we do here, or what some of the agents are doing that are on our platform to get above and beyond success, be sure to shoot us an email, give us a call, send us a text, and we'd be happy to include some of your questions on the show as well.
Thanks, guys. Have a wonderful week.
Thank you.
Thanks, Spring. Take care, and thanks for watching.